Imagine being dropped into a pitch-black cave, alone, with no sound, no light, no sense of time. Your breath becomes your only anchor. Your thoughts begin to echo louder than thunder. This is not a metaphor. This was the beginning of a real challenge. 7 days in total sensory deprivation to discover what lies beneath the noise of the world. And in that darkness, something happened. A shift. A crack in the illusion. I saw, not with my physical eyes, but with something deeper. In that moment, I knew this wasn't just about peace. It was about transformation at the quantum level. Most people think peace is passive, but what if peace was actually a radical act of consciousness? What if peace wasn't the absence of problems, but the presence of something far greater, something that lives beyond the mind's chaos? Today, we're going to explore 6 quantum shifts that don't just bring temporary relief, but deep, unshakable spiritual peace. These aren't ideas. These are experiential truths. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. They will change how you walk through life. The first shift is from identity to essence. You are not your name. You are not your story. You are not your trauma, your job, your nationality, or the opinions others have of you. These are roles, temporary expressions. But underneath it all, you are pure presence, consciousness itself. When we shift from identifying with the ego to witnessing from the soul, we free ourselves from 99% of our suffering. Because suffering is born in the illusion that we are separate, limited, and defined by external events. Ask yourself, who are you when you forget who you've been told to be?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
This shift is not conceptual, it's lived. When you walk through your day as essence, you don't react, you respond. You don't cling, you observe. You don't control, you trust. This shift brings a peace that doesn't depend on outcomes. You're no longer trying to win a game that was rigged against your soul. You're simply being, and in that being, you become untouchable. Imagine walking into any room, any situation, and remaining centered, not because of arrogance, but because you're rooted in something eternal. That's the power of this shift. The second quantum shift is from time to presence. Time is the mind's greatest trap. It creates anxiety about the future and regret about the past. But presence? Presence is timeless. It's the portal to eternity, and it's always available. When you truly drop into the now, fully, deeply, you realize that peace isn't something you find later. It's something you access now. Not with effort, but with surrender. What if your entire life was just a series of distractions pulling you away from this one sacred moment? When you shift into presence, even for a few seconds, the noise begins to fade. You smell more, you feel more, you become aware of the subtle, your breath, your heartbeat, the energy of the room. And in that awareness, the illusion of separation dissolves. You are no longer a person in the world, you are the world in the form of a person. This is not poetic. This is physics. Consciousness collapses time when it fully enters the now. And from that collapse, peace arises, not as a reward, but as your natural state. The third quantum shift is from control to surrender. Control is fear disguised as strategy. We try to control people, outcomes, our emotions, even our spiritual path. But have you noticed? The more you try to control, the more life resists. Surrender, on the other hand, is not weakness, it's the highest form of strength. It's saying, I trust the intelligence of life more than the panic of my mind, and in that surrender, peace flows in, not because everything gets easier, but because you stop needing it to. This shift requires courage. Surrender means letting go of the illusion that you know what's best. It means opening to mystery. It means allowing emotions to rise without needing to fix them. It means allowing people to be who they are without forcing them to change. And, perhaps most importantly, it means letting go of the version of yourself you've been clinging to. That version was built for survival, but peace is not about survival. It's about expansion. What would your life look like if you trusted it completely? You often hear, let go, but few explain how. Here's the truth. You don't let go. Letting go happens to you when you stop resisting what is, when you exhale and stop fighting the moment, when you stop needing answers and start trusting the question. Surrender is not a one-time event. It's a continuous practice, a moment-to-moment choice to trust what's unfolding, even when your mind screams otherwise. And in that trust, you find something the mind could never manufacture. Peace that doesn't need a reason. The fourth quantum shift is from thinking to awareness. Most people live in thought, constant narration, judgment, planning, remembering. It never stops. But thought is not the enemy, it's just not the master. When you shift into awareness, you see thoughts for what they are. Clouds passing across the sky of your consciousness. They come, they go. But you remain. You are the sky. And the moment you realize this, even the most chaotic thoughts lose their grip. Awareness doesn't mean you stop thinking, it means you stop believing every thought, you stop identifying with them. You become curious. You ask, is this true? Is this useful? Is this even mine? And in that space of inquiry, peace arises, not because thoughts disappear, but because you are no longer fused with them. You regain your sovereignty. You remember that you are the observer, not the observed. Have you ever wondered how many of your thoughts are actually yours and how many are just echoes of the world? This shift is subtle but revolutionary. You begin to experience life directly, not through the filter of conditioned thought. You taste food more fully. You listen without needing to respond. You feel emotions without drowning in them. You experience silence not as emptiness but as fullness. And in that fullness, peace begins to expand, not as a concept, but as a lived reality. You stop chasing peace because you realize you are peace when you stop running from the present moment. The fifth quantum shift is from separation to unity. This is the deepest shift, and it's also the most challenging for the ego. The ego thrives on division. Me versus you, inner versus outer, spiritual versus material. But when your perception shifts, you begin to see that there is no other, there is only one. One energy, one intelligence, one being playing as many. And this realization doesn't make you passive, it makes you compassionate. Because when you hurt another, you hurt yourself. When you love another, you love yourself. Unity is not a belief, it's a perception. It's what happens when the veil of duality begins to fade. You look into someone's eyes and see yourself. You touch the earth and feel it breathing with you. You sense the divine in a stranger's smile, in the wind, in the stillness between words. This is not hallucination. This is reality seen from the eye of the soul. And in that seeing, peace becomes inevitable. Because you no longer need to defend, to compete, to prove. You simply are, and in your being, you are complete. Ask yourself, what would change in your life if you truly believed there was no separation between you and the rest of existence? How would you speak? How would you act? What would you release? This shift doesn't just bring peace, it is peace. Because in unity there is no threat. There is no lack. There is only flow. And when you are in flow with life, life flows through you with grace, with purpose, with beauty. The sixth and final shift is from seeking to being. The spiritual path often begins with seeking books, teachers, techniques, experiences, and it's beautiful. But eventually seeking must dissolve, because the more you seek, the more you reinforce the illusion that peace is somewhere else, that truth is outside of you, that awakening is a destination. But what if the very act of seeking is the obstacle? What if you stopped and allowed yourself to be fully, radically now? Being is not passive. It's the most alive state you can embody. It's presence without striving, awareness without agenda. When you shift from seeking to being, something extraordinary happens. You realize you already are what you've been looking for. The peace, the clarity, the love. It's not out there. It's here. It's always been here, hidden under layers of effort, ambition, and spiritual performance. The moment you stop trying to become, you remember that you already are. You don't have to be perfect to be present. You don't have to fix yourself to be whole. You don't have to earn peace. It's your inheritance. But to access it, you must stop running. Stop searching. Stop proving. Just be. And in that being, the quantum shifts begin to ripple through your life. Not because you forced them, but because you surrendered to them. Peace is not a prize, it's a presence, and it's waiting for you to come home. Once we begin to embody these quantum shifts, something extraordinary happens. Life becomes lighter, not because circumstances change, but because the weight we used to carry begins to dissolve. The inner war, the constant self-judgment, the endless striving, it all begins to fade. And in that space, we experience a peace that doesn't just visit us occasionally, but lives within us permanently. It's not a peace that depends on things going right. It's a peace that exists even when everything seems wrong. That's the kind of peace we're talking about. Deep, spiritual, unshakable. But just because these shifts are simple doesn't mean they're easy. The ego fights them. The world distracts you from them. Your old habits, your unresolved wounds, your unconscious patterns, they all resist the new frequency. That's why we don't just talk about these shifts intellectually, we live them. We fall, we forget, we come back, again and again. The spiritual path is not a straight line, it's a spiral, and every time we return to the same lesson, we meet it with more awareness. Let's revisit that first shift, from identity to essence. How often do we wake up and immediately become someone? We pick up our roles like costumes, the worker, the parent, the achiever, the spiritual person. But underneath it all, who are we really? When you sit in silence long enough, the layers start to fall. And what's left is not empty, it's pure, it's vast, it's you. Before the world named you, before you needed validation, before you learned fear, that essence is peace itself. Try this. For one day, walk through your life without referring to yourself by your usual labels. Don't say, I'm stressed, or I'm tired, or I'm this kind of person. Just observe, just be. Notice how much energy you've been pouring into maintaining an identity. Now ask, what would happen if I stopped performing and started existing from truth? You might find that peace doesn't require you to become someone else. It requires you to stop pretending. Presence, the second shift, is the gateway to all others. But presence requires discipline, not effort, but remembrance. You will forget. You will get pulled into the past, the future, the story. That's okay. The key is to return, over and over, with gentleness, with curiosity, without shame. The present moment is always open, always inviting. You don't need to deserve it, you just need to arrive. What if every moment was an opportunity to begin again? One powerful practice is to anchor your awareness to your senses, not to thoughts. Thoughts will try to hijack your attention, but your senses, your breath, your heartbeat, the feeling of your feet on the earth, these are portals. They bring you back to now. And in the now, there is no problem, there is no waiting, there is only what is. And what is, when fully embraced, is always enough. When was the last time you fully tasted your food, felt the sun on your skin, or listened to the silence between words? Now let's go deeper into surrender. This is the shift that tests us the most, because surrender feels like death to the ego. It wants control. It needs guarantees. But surrender is not about giving up. It's about giving in to the intelligence of life, to the rhythm of the universe, to the wisdom of your own soul. And when you finally stop resisting what is, you begin to feel a profound relaxation in your body, your heart, your mind. That's the doorway to peace. Not when things align, but when you stop fighting what already is. Ask yourself, what am I still trying to control that is actually controlling me? It could be a relationship, a narrative, a fear. What if you let it go, not out of weakness, but out of trust? Trust that life knows what it's doing. Trust that the detour is part of the plan. Trust that your soul signed up for this exact moment, not to suffer, but to awaken. And in that awakening, you'll see that surrender was never about defeat. It's the beginning of true power. The shift from thinking to awareness is subtle, but it's everything. We've been trained to believe that thinking is the highest human faculty. But have you noticed? Most thinking is recycled noise. Worry, projection, judgment, comparison. It's not original, it's not useful, and it's definitely not peaceful. But when you rise above thought, not by suppressing it, but by observing it, you step into a new dimension of consciousness. A spaciousness, a stillness, a clarity that was always there, waiting for you to notice. Try this. The next time you have a strong thought or emotion, don't react. Don't believe it, just name it. Ah, there's anger, there's fear, there's judgment, and then breathe. Create space between the thought and the self. That space is sacred. That space is freedom. When you live from that space, you are no longer a puppet of your conditioning. You become the witness, and the witness is always at peace, even when the mind is loud. This practice changes everything. You stop being triggered so easily. You stop being pulled into drama. You stop needing to prove your worth, because you've remembered your true place. Not in the mind, but in the awareness behind the mind. And from that place, you can hold all things, joy and sorrow, success and failure, love and loss, with equal presence. That's the peace that can't be shaken, the peace that comes not from what happens, but from who you are in the midst of it. The fifth shift, from separation to unity, is not just a spiritual idea. It's an energetic reality. When you begin to see everything as connected, everything changes. The way you speak, the way you treat others, the way you walk on the earth. Because you realize there is no other. Every person is a mirror. Every experience is a reflection. Every moment is an invitation to remember our oneness. And in that remembrance, fear dissolves. Because fear is rooted in me versus you, unity is rooted in we are. This shift can be painful at first, because it means you can no longer dehumanize anyone, even those who hurt you. You see their pain, their wounds, their unconsciousness, and instead of reacting with judgment, you respond with compassion, not because you condone their actions, but because you recognize their blindness. You've been blind too, haven't we all? That's what makes peace possible. Not perfection, but understanding. What would happen if you treated every person you meet as a part of yourself? Unity doesn't mean sameness. It means sacred diversity. It means honoring the uniqueness of each expression while remembering the oneness behind it all. Like waves in the ocean, we rise and fall, but we are made of the same water. And when that becomes your lived experience, not just your belief, then peace becomes your default state. You stop fighting the world because you no longer see it as separate from you. You start serving it, loving it, protecting it, not out of obligation, but out of reverence. Finally, we return to the sixth shift, from seeking to being. This is the most profound and the most liberating, because the seeker's path is beautiful, but eventually it must end. You can't chase truth forever. At some point you must sit down, breathe, and realize it's already here. The one who was seeking was never separate from the thing being sought. It was always an inside job, always a remembering, not a discovery. You don't become awake, you realize you already are. This is where the deepest peace lives, not in more effort, not in more answers, but in the quiet, simple, sacred act of being, just being, without agenda, without striving, without needing this moment to be anything other than what it is. That's the doorway, that's the key, that's the shift that changes everything. Now we arrive at the space beyond the seeking mind, the place where peace is no longer a concept, no longer something to pursue. It becomes your natural vibration. When we shift from seeking to being, we stop measuring our worth by how far along the path we are. We stop comparing our awakening to others. We stop believing that enlightenment is some distant peak only reached by a few. Instead, we drop into the truth. Everything we seek is already here, already alive in the stillness behind the noise, in the breath beneath the thoughts, in the awareness that simply is. And yet we get pulled back, we forget, we slip into old beliefs, old identities, old stories. That's okay. That's part of the dance. The quantum shift isn't about never falling, it's about falling and remembering faster. It's about loving yourself even when the mind is messy, even when your emotions are heavy, even when you forget the truth. Because peace doesn't come from perfection. It comes from presence in the imperfection. Could you allow yourself to be fully human without forgetting that you are also fully divine? Being is not passive. It is alert, alive, and deeply engaged. The difference is you no longer operate from fear or lack. You are no longer trying to earn your place in the universe. You realize you already belong. In being, you don't stop doing, you stop doing from ego. You still create, move, speak, connect. But now, the source of your actions is peace, not pressure. Stillness, not striving. When your doing flows from your being, everything becomes sacred. Even washing the dishes, even walking down the street, even sitting in silence. Let's take this deeper. When you fully embody these 6 shifts, identity to essence, time to presence, control to surrender, thinking to awareness, separation to unity, and seeking to being, something irreversible happens. You begin to live in a new frequency. You become less interested in drama and more interested in depth. You become less reactive and more responsive. You become less identified with the noise of the world and more anchored in the silence of your soul. And in that silence, you discover a peace so vast, so undeniable, that it begins to radiate from you without effort. People will notice. Some will be drawn to you. Some will be triggered by you, because your peace will reflect their chaos. Your stillness will reveal their restlessness. Your presence will awaken something in them they've forgotten. Don't shrink. Don't dim your light to make others comfortable. Don't re-enter the storm you've just walked through just because others are still lost in it. Stand in your peace like a lighthouse, not to save anyone, but to remind them that safety is possible, that stillness is real, that home is within. There will still be waves. Life doesn't stop testing you just because you're spiritually aware. But now you ride those waves differently. You don't panic, you don't cling, you don't resist. You breathe, you allow, you remember. Peace is not the absence of waves, it's the ability to serve them with grace, with trust, with the knowing that you are not the wave, you are the ocean. You are not the emotion, you are the space in which it arises. You are not the thought, you are the awareness that sees it. Can you feel the freedom in that? Let's be honest, the world is loud, it's chaotic, it wants your attention, it feeds on your fear, it profits from your distraction. But you have a choice. You can unplug, you can return, you can choose inner stillness over outer stimulation, you can choose depth over dopamine, you can choose spaciousness over speed. And every time you make that choice, the nervous system relaxes, the mind softens, the soul expands, and peace becomes not a retreat, but your natural resting state. You don't have to move to a mountain cave or give up your life. Spiritual peace is not about escaping the world, it's about transforming your relationship with it. It's about walking through the noise without absorbing it, feeling the emotions without becoming them, witnessing the chaos without losing your center. That's real mastery. That's real freedom. And it comes not from effort, but from alignment, from choosing again and again to return to what is real, to what is eternal, to what is you. Let me ask you something. What would it feel like to live a life where nothing needed to be fixed? Not because everything is perfect, but because you see perfection in the imperfection. What would it feel like to love yourself without conditions? To trust life even when it doesn't go your way? To be so rooted in your being that no external event can shake your internal peace? That's not fantasy. That's your natural state, and it becomes your reality the moment you stop chasing and start choosing. Peace is not a destination, it's a decision. a decision to stop outsourcing your well-being to circumstances, a decision to return to your breath, a decision to trust your inner knowing over the opinions of the world, a decision to be here, fully, unapologetically, now. And when you make that decision, not once, but every day, every moment, you begin to walk differently, speak differently, love differently. You become a living transmission of the peace you've discovered within. And here's the most beautiful part. Peace is contagious. When you embody it, others feel it. You don't need to preach, you don't need to convince, you just need to be. And your being becomes the invitation, the mirror, the medicine. You become the kind of person whose presence is a reminder of what's possible, not because you're extraordinary, but because you've remembered what's ordinary. The miracle of being alive, awake and aligned. Let's reflect one more time. Identity to essence. Remember who you are beyond the labels. Time to presence. Anchor into the now where eternity lives. Control to surrender. Trust that life is wiser than your plans. Thinking to awareness. Observe the mind without being lost in it. Separation to unity. See yourself in all things. Seeking to being. Stop chasing what you already are. These are not steps to follow. They are frequencies to embody. Not once, but over and over until they become your new default vibration. And when they do, you'll notice something subtle but powerful. Your need for external validation fades. Your cravings for constant stimulation fade. Your fears begin to dissolve, not all at once, but layer by layer. And in their place, you'll find something solid, something quiet, something unshakable. That something is peace. Not the peace that comes and goes depending on how your day is going, but the peace that watches your day with love, no matter what it brings. This is what we came here for. Not just to survive, but to awaken. Not just to hustle, but to remember. Not just to achieve, but to be. And being is the ultimate revolution, because in a world that wants you to be anything but yourself, choosing to be fully here, fully now, fully you, that's sacred, that's powerful, that's peace. So the next time you feel lost, remember, you are not off the path, you are the path. The next time you feel restless, remember, you are not missing something, you've just temporarily forgotten what you already are. And the next time you feel disconnected, remember, you were never disconnected, you were just distracted. Come home, come back, come into the stillness where everything begins and ends. You don't need more time, you don't need more knowledge, you don't need more healing, you just need to stop, breathe and be. Right here, right now, and let the peace that has always lived within you rise to the surface. Not because you earned it, but because you finally stopped resisting it. This is the invitation. This is the shift. This is your moment. We've taken the journey together, but this is not where it ends. This is where it begins. Now go live it.